And I think, tracking technology is a great thing, both for consumers and also for airlines and airports alike, just from a logistics standpoint. And for consumers, it's always great to know exactly where your luggage is. And I think, furthermore, you'll see in the future, in the very near future, artificial intelligence is going to play a big role in baggage tracking. And specifically, you always think of maybe artificial intelligence as something far off, as sci-fi, but it's already being implemented in many different technologies. And with baggage tracking, you can have artificial intelligence on the baggage side basically tell you, hey, something is wrong, the baggage isn't where it's supposed to be, or it's taking a detour, or it's on the wrong flight, and so on and so forth. And so that type of thing, and also on the logistics end, I think it is something that artificial intelligence could play a big role in. Personally, there's a lot of concepts out there, but for our company, we've already delved into artificial intelligence with our movement system. So I honestly think sooner rather than later, that type of technology has big potential.
Mark, I think you might have a comment about AI. Have you just implemented a system to do that?
Well, we're working on a system almost as like you described it, where one of the things that tracking does is it creates data points, and the more data points that we have, the more difficult it is for a human to consume those data points and have an output that is meaningful. So what AI and machine learning has done is it's enabled us to use those data points to create actionable tasks to rescue a bag. So I totally agree with you. There's a place for AI, and I think the enabler for that was the tracking, and that's why tracking is important. And I totally agree with you that the transparency of those tracking events to our customers is vitally important. And I can tell you, if we have time later, I'll tell you the story of Magdalene's bag, which some of you guys have heard it before, but it's a great story. So.
Excellent. But Ben yesterday said that when a passenger enters an airport, their technology goes back 20 years. Yeah? Because outside of the airport, we're using all these whiz-bang things, lots of nice stuff. When you go into the airport, 20-year gap. And I was wondering, how big is that gap for baggage? And I'm not going to start with you, Max, because you've got a very advanced bag there. Yeah? But I'm going to start by asking Brandon from Delta, how big's that gap in your operation, do you think?
I think for Delta, I would hope that if you were to ask our passengers today how big that gap is, the answer you'd receive for a Delta passenger would be 5 to 10. I think what you're seeing is a pretty big jump from Delta trying to get into the smartphone applications, RFID technology, tracking points, and then pushing all that information to the passengers with just as much information as they want or as little information as they want. And it's up to the passenger. They opt in, they opt out. Every tracking point that we publish right now is available for the passengers to see. It's full transparency, and I think that passengers want that, and they're coming to expect that.
Great, thank you.
Well, I can only really attest to the future of technology in terms of gaps, because we make robots and that's our background. But I think an often overlooked aspect of baggage services is perhaps the logistics of carrying around baggage, and maybe even carts and things of that nature around the airport. And for us, we think of how do we simplify that and implement a technology that's relatively affordable, easy, and not prone to failure. And so a type of technology that we've been developing and we have a prototype for is actually sort of like a weight assistant or luggage assistant So imagine you're basically pushing along, a cart or a baggage or what have you, and it turns 10 or 100 or even 1,000 kilograms into one with the assistance of motors. And for me, it's very hard to explain something like that, of course. Thankfully, we do have like a prototype, so if you're interested after the event, you can stop by at the back and we can give you some demos of that. So, but that's one aspect, yeah. It's a neat idea for battery services.
I'm going to jump down the list a little bit and ask one to Max, which is which battery is used for this lovely bag that's glowing slightly, and
Right.
does that
That's like-
ruin your business model because of the regulations that are in place for dangerous goods?
It's a very good question, and actually the new regulations that IATA presented, I think roughly 2 years ago, were a big part of our development plan. Back then we were still in the prototype stage, going into mass manufacturing. And the big thing is really the battery just pops out of the suitcase. You don't even have to open it. I'll show you right now. And it's under 100 watt hours, so the actual power bank is completely within the norms of all, airline regulations. So you don't even have to open the bag itself. It just pops out and pops back in. Super simple. And you can take it with you and charge your electronic devices, Anecdotally, I've been traveling all over the world just because of the nature of this business. Even in more stringent countries like China or Israel, the most they're going to do is ask you, oh, hey, cool, I've seen this on YouTube, can you show me? So no, I don't think it ruins the business model because, we're fully compliant with the new regulations. Yeah.
Thanks. I just wanted to clear that one up because it was a nice, easy one to go through. If you're not familiar with the lithium-ion regulations, it is that you can't put lithium-ion in the hold, except for very, very small quantities, and anything under 100 watt hours you can take on board the aircraft in the cabin, because there, if anything happens, there's a process to take care of that issue. But I'll put you in touch with our dangerous goods colleagues if you want to first. So Max, you're one of our Innovation Award judges for tomorrow, yeah?
Yes.
And you've been through a whole load of projects and a whole load of ideas. And of course, you have quite an innovative product there. Knowing, I don't know how much you know about the baggage infrastructure, but if you imagine a time machine taking you back to about 1992, that's when most of it is.
Right.
So if you were, what do you think would be the barriers to innovation for our industry around that type of infrastructure?
Right. So, it's hard for me to comment as, I am kind of an outsider in this field. I think technology inevitably moves forward, even with, of course, with things like regulations and governments and so many countries and the infrastructure in place, there's limitations to the progress that's being made. But I think regardless of that, it's kind of an inevitability that there's going to be new things and new functionality, new features. Not even necessarily from a consumer standpoint, but just from a logistics and profitability standpoint. That's inevitable. So yeah. But again, for me, I'm not really on that side of the business, so I can't comment too much of that.
Max, would you be happy as a passenger if your bag wasn't tracked?
I think there's more benefits to it being tracked, and we've kind of independently thought up of our own solution where we have a separate GSM tracker with a purchase of Travelmate. That actually uses, 3G, 4G, or Wi-Fi tech. So, to get back to the previous question, actually, those types of technology are possible, but they would require, batteries, and that would make it too expensive. So, for me as a consumer, as a passenger, I'd love to know exactly where my baggage is. I can't tell you how many times I go through a transfer and there's an hour left, and then I have to ask the flight attendant at the front desk, like, hey, is my luggage, did it make it, or, you know, what's going on? And she can't tell because she can't tell if my bag's actually on the plane or not. So actually having a service that provides that information to me, I think is invaluable.
Okay, thank you, Tom. We're just about out of time. I said I'd give an opportunity if there's anyone in the audience who wanted to ask a question because you don't have a mobile device, a telephone, an iPad, you don't have a Wi-Fi access. So is there anyone in that situation who wants to ask a question? Great. I knew if I phrased it that way, there wouldn't be a hand. Oh. Okay, so...
Get a bag, ask a question?
No, but it can play some Star Wars.
And on that, I think it's time to wrap up. Pierre, would you like to close out the session as a whole? Okay, can I just, before Pierre closes, everybody here make as much noise as possible to say thank you to our panelists. Make everybody else think they missed something wonderful.